Hey, what's up? I'm Derek Kirk of Effectatron, and today I've got kind of a quick one for you. We're going to use Quixel Bridge to bring in and create a realistic field of grass blowing in the wind. I have a stylized version of this available. It's not using Quixel assets. It's creating your own grass and stuff like that available. But I'm not going to go ahead and explain everything about Quixel Bridge and how to install it. It's very clear on the website. So just go ahead and do that. If there are a few nuances when using Quixel that we'll cover, they're going to help us kind of get the result we want, okay? Let's start with a blank scene. We'll go ahead and add a dome light. We'll type in HDRI, grab something like almost clear. Why not? Throw that in. Okay, now when you install Quixel, you should have the extension Megascans plugin. Click that, and we want to make sure all of these are checked. We're going to use EXRs when available, apply materials selection. It's up to you. And enable displacement. Now, enable displacement is going to bring in the Redshift tag, but it doesn't actually enable displacement at all. It's really annoying because for whatever reason, Redshift decides that no one is allowed to enable displacement except for the user, which I assume is, a failsafe because it does have a lot of issues and will crash your scene if you don't want it to. Okay, so let's go ahead and just create a landscape for our scene, our field of grass. This looks pretty good, right? But we always need to make sure that we're using our scale correctly when doing something like this. We're never going to use real photo scan assets. Scale is very important. So let's bring in our figure. And now you can realize that our landscape isn't very landscapey. It's kind of more like a pile of dirt. So we're going to go ahead and just add a 0 here. And we'll say like 400 here. And then add a 0 here. There, not there. There, not there. Birdman. Okay, so let's go ahead and just change the C to this a little bit. And then say border to sea levels. Turn that off. And we can, increase the segments here to 400 and 400 because we are going to probably displace it a little bit, but we're going to cover it up for the most part anyway. We'll do a few less rough furrows and fine furrows and maybe bring it down just a bit like that. And, we just wanted to really just have like some kind of Sound of Music vibes, a little hilly, but nothing crazy. Like so. We can bring it back up a smidge. Yeah. Something like that, all right? Not bad. Change our seed a little bit again. Maybe just 2. Yeah, we just want to cover up that horizon line a little bit. And we can grab our guy, use our placement tool, put him back up on our hill here. There we go. So our scale's looking pretty good. This is a pretty good little selection. If you want to learn how to manually model a landscape and have like the textures that go on the side be like the nice cliff face, while the textures that go on top automatically are like your grass and stuff like that. We cover that in the Mind in Motion workshop, chapter 4, modeling. If you just want to do the focus training, it's available in that. It's a very cool, fun one to do. Let's go ahead and just increase this a bit more. We just want a little bit more hillside. Yeah, something like that. Okay. All right, guy, get on there. Nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and with this landscape selected, we'll open up Quixel Bridge and we'll grab something that looks kind of like grass. We'll go to 3D assets and we're going to go to surfaces. Boop. And we're just going to go ahead and grab something that's like soil or ground, or if you scroll down the trending ones, normally you can find something that looks like grass there. But we'll go ahead and just type in grass. And we'll filter out by grass here. We've got artificial, dried, and lawn, wild, patchy. We'll just do patchy. And then inside of here, we've got one called wild grass, but we'll probably do this one. Mossy grass, wild grass. Any of these will work, honestly, because most of the time we're going to be covering it up with grass anyway. So we'll do wild grass. And once you have these selected, one thing I want to say is you want to make sure you have your export and download settings done correctly. So you just want to make sure you've got all your maps on that you need. And then once we have that selected, with our landscape selected here, we can download that in 4K and hit export. We don't need 8K because we're not going to do like zoomed in or anything like that. So we should be fine with 4K. Export's going to bring that right in. Again, we're not going to talk about like a lot of stuff like in detail. This is more of a quick way to do the grass. So one thing I want to do is whenever I bring in a Quixel material, you want to make sure for that to actually come in, you have to have your preferences set up and your render and your Redshift settings, and you have to make sure node material presets is off. so that it actually comes in properly, which means it's going to come in with the old shader graph, which is lame. But the cool thing is we can just go to materials and tools and convert and replace with nodes. And now we've instantly updated that to the new shader graph. Now we're going to grab our roughness and displacement, choose raw. So type in raw in the color space. There we go. And then for the displacement map, let me talk about this because you can see it brought in our Redshift tag here. And we need to tile this. So we're going to go ahead and say like 10 and 10. And that looks pretty good. Not too shabby. And what we need to do is enable displacement. So instead of here, we have to have our override enabled. So we actually have these things clicked on, and that's because of that plugin. But we actually still needed to come in here and manually override it. So one thing I want to talk about is displacement and some common issues that a lot of people don't know how to fix. It's a very easy fix, actually. So we'll cover it real quick. Here's how I laugh. Okay, so you can see we've got displacement on our ground. It looks really good, but it's covering our guy's feet up. And obviously it's not here. So how do we fix that? Well, open up to like my singing. Open up the material here. And all we need to do is go inside the displacement tag here. And inside the displacement node, we change this new range to -0.5 and 0.5. And that's going to keep the range of difference, but bring everything down. So it's going to suck things down and push things up, which should leave whatever object you have being in the same place rather than lifting everything up. So now you can see we actually can see his feet and we still have the same amount of displacement. Perfect. This is just a really helpful tip when using displacement because a lot of times it'll just like shoot things way up, way higher than we need. But this is all looking really good. Now, this looks really tiled. It's not too terrible, honestly, with this texture. It's not too bad. But we could fix that really quick. I have a whole tutorial on how to do that and set that up. But honestly, that one's not bad enough that we even need to mess with. But you would just use an OSL shader. And I have a tutorial on that if you need to fix repeating tiles. But for this, looks pretty good. All right, nice. So now we need to add the grass, okay? So we'll save this. And this is going to be grass type 1. So now what we need to do is find our grass. And we'll go ahead and make this full screen. And we'll go to 3D plants. And down here we have grass. We have all kinds of grass. Lawn grass, hill grass, wild grass. And so we're going to use the Kikuyu grass, uwu grass. And we want to make sure you can see down here, if you scroll down, sometimes they have like the size. I guess they don't with this grass, but with some materials, they'll have like how big it is compared to a person. This grass is pretty tall, which is what I wanted to show. But we're going to go ahead and just hit download once you have that downloaded, and then hit export. And that's going to bring that into our scene. And now we're going to use that to set up the grass. Now, one thing I want to do is, all right, that's exported successfully. We just brought all of that in. It's not labeled anything coherent. It's all just a bunch of junk. So I'm going to go ahead and create a null. And I could have just like selected them all and said group, but we're going to say grass and put them all in there just so we can kind of like keep that together. Now we're going to grab that and put that here. And you can see it's a big clump, right? And it's pretty tall. It's almost as big as our guy, but that's okay for now. So here's the decision you have to make. You can keep it together as a clump like this and clone it. And, you know, it'll cover up your landscape faster that way. But it looks a little less organic and you'll start seeing like that shape over and over and over again. So we don't actually want to do that. What we're going to do is use a cloner and we're going to grab all of these and just put them inside the cloner. And now you're wondering why I even bothered putting it in a group. That's just something that I would say to do out of like good practice when using Quixel assets because they all come in gibberish. And sometimes it's hard to tell by the material what they actually are, even though it does say the name of them. You know, you never know. Okay, so we've got our cloner. One thing we want to do is we want to set it to multi-instance, and we want to switch it to object. And we're going to grab our landscape and throw it in here as the object. Multi-instance is going to keep it lighter on our scene. And now we need, you know, like way more, like probably 20,000 at least. Everything comes in weird looking because it's sideways. We have a line to clone on, that's fine. We're going to come in here to the transform and rotate it -90 degrees on the pitch. And there we go. So now we actually, you know, have that grass scattered throughout our scene, and it's a little more organic, we can go ahead and take a look at this. And we probably don't even need that displacement to be going. One thing a lot of people complain about is once you enable displacement, your scene slows down a bit, but you can tell it does look pretty nice in those little patches. And I like that. But once you have it set up and your displacement how you want it, if you just click this freeze tessellation button and leave your IPR window open, it's going to cook that down one time and freeze that tessellation. So now we're actually going to be able to get our real-time feedback back. And so we can actually do that. So a little tip when using displacement, once you get it set up how you want it, you can freeze it there with this tessellation. But I think we need more grass, which is totally fine. But for now, let's go ahead and animate our grass before we, fill it all out. And you can see it doesn't really look that bad that it was that tall. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. With all of these selected, I want to select all of my grasses, come in here and hold Shift and let go on Wind. And with our wind selected, we'll come down here so we can look at this a little closer. And we'll hit play on this, and it's just going to be like way too much, right? We want to make sure flag is on because that's going to kind of lock it down. But our amplitude and our size is way too much. So we're going to scale down the size and scale down the amplitude to like 1. Okay. Okay, so we've got our amplitude and our scale down, but it still looks pretty weird, right? So let's just turn our scale back up a little bit more and a little bit more. Okay. So now we're getting it. Now we're getting a little better. It's flying around a little less, maybe like 0.8 on the amplitude and maybe like 2.5 for this size. And then if we want this to loop, which we do, we want to make sure the turbulence is off. And it's still not looping, which is really annoying because the frequency is set to 1 and you think that would be a loop. Well, it's not. But we have 90 frames and our timeline is set to 30 frames each. And now I need to select all of these again. So I'm going to type in wind up here with the search bar and reselect all those. And we need to make it divisible into 90 evenly as possible. So we're going to say 3.33333, repeating, of course, Leroy. And there we go. So now we actually are going to have looping grass. It's moving quite a bit. So I want to turn up the size like that. So it's more like natural. Yeah, so size is 3.5, amplitude, and now we're looping. So because we're looping, we're going to go ahead and actually, we'll save that for a second. But now we actually have it like kind of blowing in the wind. It's moving at least. But it doesn't really look like wind yet because it's not like a uniform direction. So that's what we want to do next. So next we want to select all of our grass again and hold Shift and click Bend. And we're going to modify the bend here and all these grasses together as one unit as well. So what we want to do is say fit to parent, and then we're just going to turn it up. And you're going to see, woo, it gets crazy. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure we keep length on. All right, and that's going to make sure our grass stays the same length and doesn't like stretch out. And you can see as we bend it, we get kind of that nice kind of bend look. So maybe we do like somewhere around 80-ish, 85. And that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and animate that. So at frame 0, we'll start it at like maybe 36%. Because we don't want to like snap all the way back. We could try. We'll try it. We can actually go, it shouldn't ever like bend all the way back though. We'll do like 16%. And we'll go to 45, which is halfway between 90 and 0. And we'll go all the way up to like 80. And it might be too far, like 85. And we'll grab our beginning keyframe, hold Control, and drag it all the way up to 90. And then if we wanted to actually loop, we just need to go back to frame 89 down here so that we don't have those repeating frames. So now when we hit play, we get this like windy grass. Now that's like too much, right? So I think that first frame needs to be something else. It goes too far. And that's the key. You want it to be subtle. And we're going to say like probably like 60 something. And then we'll go to the last frame, back to frame 90. And again, what was it? we'll go up to 66, keyframe that, go back. So now it should be a little more subtle, but we're still going to get that kind of uniform motion. So if we zoom out here, you should see we get this nice kind of pattern there. Not too shabby. Cool. All right, so now all we need to do is really fill this in. So I'm probably going to up this to 40,000. We'll save. All right, not too bad. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in another grass. And we don't want to go crazy. Like if you get to the point where your scene starts lagging too much, you can just swap the cloner out for a matrix scatter. You won't be able to see it as well in the viewport, but it will still work just fine. But we're going to grab kind of this like lower grass right here. It's like grass clumps. And we're going to use that to kind of fill out underneath. We'll just do 2K for that and export that. There we go. Grass clumps, nice. We're going to go ahead and just grab a matrix scatter for that. And we'll say object, we'll say custom objects, and just choose the clumps themselves because they're kind of designed to be that way. Okay. And we'll say to do the transform at -90, just like we did for the cloner. And the object will set to the object, and that will be our landscape, like so. And then we'll say, like, I don't know, 200,000. And you can see that's going to be where it puts those. And what we can do now is just render this out and take a look. Yeah. So that looks pretty good. Those grass clumps might be a little tall. Let's see. Are those grass clumps taller than our field? Let's turn off our cloner and just take a look at our matrix scatter, so our grass clumps. Because I think those might be too big. Yeah, so let's shrink those down. Yeah, those are way too big. So we're going to shrink those down. Grass clumps, matrix object, and we're going to say like 0.1. We want them to be like small under grass. It's going to just kind of filling out the landscape underneath. Oh, perfect. Yeah, kind of like that in little patches. Maybe like 0.2. Yes, a perfectly nice grass field. Okay, so quick tutorial. Grass clumps work really well for creating a field of grass. Wow. Who would have thought? This looked really nice for a yard. Okay, cool. So we've got that going now. We can enable our grass back. Let's go ahead and zoom out. We've got our, sunlight coming in from over there. So what I want to do is create a light. We're going to go ahead and create an infinite light. Target tag at null. And we're just going to kind of bring it back to kind of match that light. So it's going to come from this way like that. Not too bad. Doesn't matter how far back it is because it's coming from infinity. And we can just take a look at that. And we've got our person there. And we've got our cloner save, turn our cloner back on. And we can get away with less grass now. So maybe like just 30,000. Because we don't have to fill as many gaps because we have that grass underneath to fill. We'll hit render on that. Beauty, a beauty. I don't know what that accent is. Yeah. That looks really nice. So let's go ahead and hit our snowflake. Okay, good. Snowflake's going. Let's dock this, Marty. And we'll hit play. And obviously it's going to go slow, but you can see it is in fact moving. And if we, let that cook for a second and then bring it back in, you should see it all kind of lean over a little bit more. So it's all kind of the same direction, moving in the field. Now you could come in here and on top of that, add fields over the whole thing that kind of make different grass react differently. So it's not as uniform, right? So you could come in and just adjust some of these wins or bins and change the seed or come in here and change the field and do like a random field or whatever on that. So they're not all uniform, but it looks pretty good. And we see even with the less amounts of clumps, we're in good shape because we have so much undergrass underneath that it looks really, really good. So let's go ahead and just maybe add a little Redshift environment on here. Nothing crazy. Object environment, go to our dome light, tell it not to affect our fog. Grab our fog, take it way down, super, super far down. Yeah, something like that. Just a nice kind of A little haze, 0.001. 0.001, not 0001. Yeah. And maybe turn up the attenuation just a bit to kind of, yeah. No, I like the sky. Yeah, and then let's grab our infinite light and let's just back it off just a smidge on the volume contribution, which is just going to really take that back down just a bit. And we're really only adding that just as like a nice little bit of haze. So if we come in here, you know, and look at it towards our light, we get low, shouty. We might get like some nice little rays coming in. It's not going to be that crazy. But if we were to crank it back up, we get some of that haze back in there. But it's really up to you with what you want to do. I think we need to make our infinite light just a smidge lower. And then also make it possibly... See, here's the thing. That looks good, right? That's fine. But what if we do an area light? Then we can use a gobo. But this is pretty much, the tutorial is pretty much done, right? But now we're going to take it just one step further and just add like that natural looking light, like there's clouds in the sky, because we have a cloudy sky, but we don't have any like shadows on our ground from our clouds. And that's one of those things that, you know, yes, you can get away with it. Like obviously you're just in a pocket of sunlight, but what if we add those clouds in? So let's delete our infinite light and turn off our fog for a second, save it, and add an area light. Do an area light, do a target tag and null, and bring that area light back up to where that was. So we'll go to our top view here, middle mouse click, and we're just going to kind of pull it out just a bit here. And go over here. And the way I want to do this, and again, if you want to learn more about landscapes and stuff, do check out the modeling chapter in the Mind and Motion workshop. Available now. Also, the whole workshop is like 40% off right now. All right, let's stop the stupid render preview. It's slowing us down. The whole workshop is 40% off right now through April. So that's like saving $200 on a $500 thing. So big savings. All right. Okay, we've got our area. All right, we've got our area light. We've got it set to target tag and null. Let's just bring it back over to sort of over near where the other light was. But this one does actually need to go off screen. And it needs to be like huge. Like big, like 2,000, needs to be bigger than our landscape. So 20,000 by 20,000. And again, if you want to learn more about making landscapes and stuff, obviously this needs to be back over here. If you want to learn more about making landscapes and things in a realistic fashion, definitely check out the Mind and Motion workshop. Chapter 4, modeling, covers that. And the whole workshop itself is on sale for 40% off right now all the way through April. As a celebration for baby girl number 2, who's coming literally any day now. So that's exciting. Okay, so we've got our big area light here. Let's go ahead and dial it back because it's going to be way too strong. And then we're going to take the spread of this all the way down. And we're going to go ahead and go to inside of here. We're going to go to Gobo. I'm going to grab one of these Maxon Gobos that's in here. This like leaves and things. And we're just really just want to like blur your eyes when you're looking at this. Like this one. And we're just going to look for one that has like pockets of light and shadow. And we're going to then increase the spread just a little bit, and that's going to blur that for us. So now, if you come in here and raise this up a bit, not too crazy, we can spread it out even wider and drag it over. And we can also just move our target to kind of match our scene a little bit better. But let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like from above, because we should have a nice little pocket or like a gobo kind of effect on here that should have like some shadow and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So we can maybe make it smaller. But now we just have like a little bit of light there. Let's go ahead and make this like go back to 20,000 there. Yep. And we can move our target around to maybe bring that pocket of light into kind of where we want to show. Yes, something like that. And we can maybe make this even smaller. Or just grab a different gobo map. If we're not getting the amount of that, looks good. Kind of like that. And maybe drag this back over this way a bit to bring some of this shine into this part here. Yes. Okay, cool. So now we have like this light shine coming in, right? And let's make it just like a smidge gold, like just a smidge. It's like sunsetty, but it's cloudy. It's gonna look nice and outdoorsy. Yes, and then we can save that, turn our fog back on. And that is going to give us more of a natural looking fog shine. So we can dial this back down to like 0.02. And if you come in here to the fog, we want to make sure GI is on all the way up in our fog. And we need to go back to our area lights, go to details, and we can dial it back in. So it's not affecting it too much, but let's go ahead and look at it. Like if we looked at it from this way, obviously we'll get some of those rays and stuff coming in. And it's not that important, but if we had like a building here or something, obviously we would get that kind of light fall off there from that volume if you wanted it. Just things to fill out your scene and make it look a little bit more real. Also things that you may not need that just are going to up your render time. Totally up to you. But we can come in here, add a little bit of that environment, turn that up a bit, and then maybe turn our light down a smidge because it's now too bright. But now we have a more realistic looking grass field. And maybe the environment wasn't necessary. But the lighting looks nice, so we can just do that. Turn the fog off. We've got our lighting. We've got our guy in the field. Let's turn him off. And we can change our render settings to 1080p. There we go. And we should have a nice field that will just blow in the grass and the wind. Looks pretty good. Let's raise it up just a smidge more. Yes, and then we hit play on this so we can see it here. Is it bending the way we want it to bend? Yeah. But maybe we rotate a little bit more this way. So it's kind of more like angular. Hit play on that. But we're getting 89 frames. That's what we want. Because that's going to make it loop perfectly for us. Very nice. I think everything's looking pretty good. We just grab a Redshift camera and we'll do like a 35. Yeah, that's good. And yeah, we could do depth of field on this if you wanted. I don't know that we need to, but yeah, why not? Let's go ahead and go to depth of field. We'll click really close like that to turn on the bokeh. We'll do like 3, really low aperture. Not crazy low, we'll do 1.4. And that's going to jack up our render time though. I don't know that that's really necessary. But it is pretty. So really up to you. You could do like, you could do a really long lens, 150. And really zoom out and look at it from afar. More so. And then do optical depth of field like right there. Do like a patch in there. And do like 12. And you have like more of an area. Maybe like 24. I don't know. It's really up to you. That's kind of the tilt shift effect. That could be a whole nother tutorial. But now, yeah, we're really just picking out our angle and shot. Let's do, I always go back to the 50. I love the 50. Lights coming in that way. We want to be kind of this way. And pull it down. Like that. I think that looks good. Yeah, so, you know, there you go. Grass field blowing in the wind. Now, you know, if you want to, you add a little story to it. You grab some assets or something from Kitbash or something like that. Which there's a link to that below. Because I'm an affiliate. It's really awesome. And you could just fill in your scene here or there or wherever. But everything's looking pretty good here. I like it. But yeah, there you go. If you enjoyed that, be sure to like and subscribe and check out the Mind in Motion workshop as well. But yes, we've got a nice scene going on here. I might flesh it out a little bit more for the intro video, but that'd be about it. But yeah, hopefully that should help address some issues and things and some stuff inside of Quixel as far as displacement goes, but also allow you to create a nice windy scene.